Hi everyone, it is the 16th. I thought I would do a blog before I go to Costa Rica. For those of you who don't know, I am leaving tomorrow morning and I'm going for 6 days to Costa Rica. Well, technically 8 days, but I guess if you're talking about a work week, it's 6 days off of work. Anyway, Tony and I and 4 of his friends got this really great deal on a trip to Costa Rica, and it's going to be really exciting. It'll be the first time I've been out of the country outside of Canada for a long time, and I hope to have a lot of fun. It should be really exciting. Just no work, no Milwaukee, no Denver, no anything, just whatever. So that's the big news. Ended up having to spend about $200 for a passport because I had to get it expedited because the trip was coming up so quick, and I didn't know if it would be a situation where, you know, they would take 6 to 8 weeks or 2 to 3 months or whatever. So I spent the extra $60, unfortunately, into my budget. But because I got such a good deal on Costa Rica, and since we're going as a group, we're getting a really great rate. And Tony and Patrick work for the airline, so that helps too. Let's see. So this past weekend was Pridefest, and it was really fun. I'm kind of here and there about Pridefest nowadays. I recognize that Pridefest is like any other event in that it's a way for people with like interests to get together. I don't necessarily think it has to be so much about pride anymore, and in the way that everybody should be proud of who they are, of course. But it's not like it was in the 60s and 70s or 80s or whatever, even the 90s, where you had to fight so hard to be who you are. I think nowadays it's a lot easier to, you know, say, hey, I'm gay, whatever. Granted, that's not to say that it's still not a challenge, but some of the things I don't like about Pridefest are the fact that it's showing pride about a lot of things, but one of the things that it shows to me is that a lot of it's about fetishes, and I don't like to think that I fit necessarily in any of those categories. I acknowledge the fact that you can be gay and be into a whole bunch of things, but it seems as though they pull in so many subcultures into it, being drag queens and leather daddies and bears and furs and twinks and all that kind of stuff. And to me, Pridefest is just about celebrating with my friends the fact that I don't have to be persecuted for who I am. When you add all the extra stuff to it, it doesn't necessarily, it's not a bad thing, I'm not saying that, but I do acknowledge that somebody who's a little bit more conservative or straight-laced or whatever might see and say, well, gays are just a bunch of drag queen freaks that like, you know, S&M. Because that's what you see. You see the glam and the glitz and the over-the-top stuff.